I used to believe in perfect marriages. Standing in our kitchen this morning, watching Valerie sip coffee while scrolling through her phone with that secret smile I'd started to recognize, I realized how naive I'd been. My name is Ethan Rhodes. I'm 35, a senior systems architect who pulls in a solid six-figure salary. I write clean code and still remember anniversaries. I thought I'd married someone who shared those values. Valerie is 32, with auburn hair and green eyes that used to look at me like I hung the moon. She hasn't worked since our second year of marriage. Her choice, my agreement. We live in a beautiful three-bedroom house I bought before the wedding, a symbol of the stability I thought we'd built together. I remember our meeting at a charity fundraiser, me volunteering with tech support, her laughing with friends over cheap wine. When our eyes met across that crowded ballroom, the cliché felt real. 2 years of dating felt effortless. Weekend trips to wine country, lazy Sunday mornings, the kind of easy companionship that made marriage feel inevitable. Then came the prenup. Valerie's father, Robert, insisted on it during our engagement. Sitting across from us in that sterile attorney's office with leather chairs and mahogany furniture. "Just a precaution," Robert said, his voice firm but not unkind. The clause was simple: adultery voids all claims to marital assets. I signed without hesitation. I'd never cheat anyway, I declared confidently. Valerie signed too, her confidence absolute. Our honeymoon in Italy was everything it should have been. Cobblestone streets, vineyard sunsets, laughter echoing through ancient villas. We made love on terraces overlooking the Mediterranean, planned our future over bottles of Chianti. Life was perfect. But 6 months ago, something changed. It started small. Things I told myself I was imagining. Valerie pulling away when I reached for her at night, always on her phone, smiling at texts she angled away from my view. Girls' nights became twice-weekly rituals. Shopping trips stretched into all-day disappearances. When I asked if everything was okay, she dismissed me with practiced ease. "I'm fine. Just stressed," she would say. The phone calls started coming late at night. She'd excuse herself to the bathroom, claiming her sister was having relationship drama. But when I pressed for details the next morning, her stories were vague, inconsistent. Her sister seemed fine at Sunday dinner. I noticed new lingerie in the laundry basket. Black lace I'd never seen before. Designer pieces that weren't being worn for my benefit. Receipts appeared. Crumpled paper showing charges at upscale restaurants and hotels on days when she claimed to be shopping. Her phone became Fort Knox. She changed her passcode from our anniversary date to something I couldn't guess. Started taking it everywhere, angling it away when texts came in. I wanted to trust her. God, how badly I wanted to believe in the woman I'd pledged my life to. But my gut screamed otherwise, a primal warning that echoed through my chest every time she smiled at her phone. Every time she came home late with explanations that didn't add up. Tonight, watching her scroll through her phone with that secret smile while mindless reality TV played, I finally admitted what I'd been avoiding for weeks. This wasn't stress. This wasn't a rough patch. This was betrayal, deliberate and calculated. I made a decision sitting there on our couch. Tomorrow, I would call someone who dealt in truth, no matter how ugly it might be. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I was wrong. But deep down, I already knew. And what I was about to discover would make me wish I'd stayed blind. The name Raymond Cross came from Jake Murphy, a colleague whose marriage had imploded 3 years ago. "Best investigator in the city," Jake had told me. "You need proof. He'll get it." The phone call was brief, clinical. "Cross Investigations," a gravelly voice answered. "I think my wife is cheating," I said, the words tasting like ash. "I need proof. How long have you suspected?" Raymond's tone was matter-of-fact. 6 months. "Maybe longer," I replied. "Tell me about her patterns. When does she go out? Where? How often?" he asked. I provided everything. The girls' nights every Tuesday and Friday, the weekend shopping marathons, the late-night phone calls behind locked doors. Her full name, our address, her car details, gym schedule, favorite restaurants. "What's your goal here?" Raymond asked. "What kind of proof do you need?" "The kind that holds up in court," I said without hesitation. The prenup flashed through my mind. "I need everything documented, time-stamped, undeniable." My retainer is $5,000. Most cases like this take 2 to 3 weeks if there's something to find, he explained. I transferred the money that afternoon, feeling like I was purchasing the destruction of my own life. The next 3 weeks were pure torture. I went through the motions, cooking dinner, making small talk, lying beside a woman who felt like a stranger. Valerie seemed oblivious to my scrutiny, or maybe she was just confident in her deception. She started coming home smelling different. Not just perfume, but cologne. Expensive cologne I didn't wear, lingering despite her attempts to mask it. New lingerie appeared in the laundry. When I complimented a new set, she claimed she'd bought it months ago, but I would have noticed. Every morning I checked email for Raymond's updates. The first week brought surveillance reports. Photos of Valerie's car at various locations, timestamps proving she wasn't where she claimed to be. Shopping trips that took her to hotel parking lots. Girls' nights at expensive restaurants her friends couldn't afford. Then photos started arriving. Grainy at first, surveillance shots showing Valerie with someone. A man. Dark hair, expensive suit, confident stride. In clearer images, they held hands across candlelit tables, kissed in parking lots with new lover passion. Raymond's reports grew detailed. Subject continues pattern of deception. Physical contact observed. Investigating male companion's identity. Then Raymond called on Thursday afternoon. The gravity in his voice told me everything. We need to meet. In person, he said. His office was exactly what I'd expected. Generic building, fluorescent lights, tired eyes that had seen too much. Raymond spread photos across his desk like dealing cards. Your wife is having an affair, he said without preamble. At least 4 months, probably longer. I've documented everything. The photos told the story I dreaded. Valerie and this man, Connor Lane, according to Raymond, in increasingly intimate poses. Restaurant dinners, parking lot embraces, hotel entries and exits with timestamps proving they weren't meeting for coffee. Then came video footage. Raymond slid a tablet across the desk. Hotel security camera. I have contacts, he explained. The video was explicit, undeniable, time-stamped. Valerie and Connor in a hotel room, bodies intertwined with passion I hadn't seen from my wife in months. Her face flushed with pleasure, movements urgent and desperate. She looked alive in a way that made my chest tight with rage. Connor Lane, 38, real estate developer, Raymond continued. Married, 2 kids, lives in Westfield Estates. Worth about $3 million. He's done this before. 2 other affairs in 5 years. My hands clenched until knuckles went white. 4 months of lies, elaborate deceptions, my wife coming home to me after being with him. How long? I asked. 4 months confirmed? Based on patterns and comfort level, probably 6 months total, he answered. I took copies of everything. Photos, videos, surveillance reports. The evidence was ironclad, devastating, but instead of confronting Valerie immediately, I made another call. To Margaret Sinclair, the divorce attorney who'd handled Jake's case with ruthless efficiency. I need a consultation for divorce, I said, staring at photos of my wife with another man. I have proof of adultery. How's tomorrow at 10? Ms. Sinclair will want to review everything, the receptionist replied. Tell her it's straightforward. My wife violated our prenup and I want her to lose everything, I stated. I had the proof. I had the rage. But I also had something more dangerous, patience. Because I wasn't just going to catch her. I was going to destroy her. Margaret Sinclair's office occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, all windows and expensive furniture that spoke of ruthless competence. She was exactly what I'd expected, sharp-eyed, impeccably dressed, with the predatory smile that made opposing counsel nervous. Show me what you have, she said, gesturing to the leather chair across from her desk. I spread Raymond's evidence across the polished surface. Photos, videos, time-stamped reports, organized with methodical precision. Margaret reviewed everything with surgical detachment. She paused at certain photos, made notes, watched video clips with an expression that never changed. When finished, she leaned back and smiled, not warmth but cold, predatory satisfaction. This is ironclad, she said, tapping the tablet screen. Photos, videos, timestamps, third-party verification, combined with your prenuptial agreement, she gets nothing. Absolutely nothing. She pulled out my prenup and traced the relevant clause. Adultery voids all claims to marital assets. Clean, simple, unbreakable. The house is premarital property anyway. All savings, retirement accounts, investments, everything remains yours, she explained. I leaned forward. I want to file immediately, but don't serve her yet. Margaret raised an eyebrow. You want to confront her first? I want her to dig her own grave. I want her to think she has leverage, to show me exactly who she really is. Then I want to watch her face when she realizes she's lost everything, I replied. Margaret smiled genuinely this time. Risky, but satisfying. And legally sound. We'll have papers ready. When you decide to proceed, I can have a process server at your door within an hour. We spent 2 hours discussing strategy. The prenup's implications were devastating. Adultery didn't just void Valerie's asset claims, but eliminated alimony. The house, purchased before marriage, was mine regardless. Joint savings, retirement accounts, even furniture, all mine. Your father-in-law built the perfect weapon to destroy his daughter's financial security, Margaret noted with irony. He thought he was protecting you both. Instead, he made her divorce the most expensive mistake of her life. Over the next week, I prepared with methodical precision. Every system needed a blueprint, and destroying my wife's world required the same careful planning as enterprise software. I opened a separate bank account, transferring enough for expenses but leaving joint accounts intact. No red flags. I changed personal account passwords but left shared ones alone. I consulted an IT security expert about recording conversations. Single-party consent state, I was covered. I backed up 5 years of financial records, documenting every major purchase and account. If Valerie wanted to fight, she'd discover I'd documented our entire financial life with obsessive detail. At home, I played the oblivious husband perfectly. Asked about her day, mentioned car trouble, suggested vacation planning. Valerie barely engaged, attention constantly pulled to her phone. One evening, she mentioned Friday girls' night. I nodded enthusiastically, kissing her forehead. Have fun. Tell Sarah I said hi, I told her warmly. Friday night, while Valerie was presumably with Connor, I sat in my office reviewing everything. Evidence folder organized chronologically, videos queued, recording device charged and tested. Margaret's divorce papers in my desk drawer. I poured 2 fingers of Macallan, not to numb myself but to steady my hands. Tomorrow I'd give Valerie exactly what she deserved. Truth and consequences. She would walk in thinking she was untouchable, believing her lies had succeeded, confident she could continue indefinitely. She had no idea she was about to lose everything: marriage, security, home, family respect, and most importantly, her sense of superiority. I wasn't nervous anymore. I was excited. Because tomorrow, Valerie would discover what happened when you underestimated the man whose life you'd been systematically destroying, and I was going to enjoy every second of her realization. I arrived home Saturday afternoon with the evidence folder on my passenger seat and the digital recorder already running in my shirt pocket. My hands were steady, my breathing controlled, my rage crystallized into something cold and surgical. 3 weeks of investigation, 2 weeks of legal preparation, and months of suspicion had led to this moment. I walked through the front door to find Valerie exactly where I'd expected, sprawled across our leather couch, reality TV playing on the 70-inch screen I'd bought for our anniversary, phone in hand, completely at ease in the home she was about to lose. "Hey, babe," she said without looking up, her thumb scrolling through what I now knew were probably messages from Connor. "How was work?" The casual dismissiveness in her voice, I hadn't even been at work, it was Saturday afternoon, crystallized everything wrong with our marriage in a single moment. She didn't care enough to remember what day it was, let alone where I'd been. I was furniture to her, a convenient accessory to the life I provided. "Valerie, we need to talk," I announced. Something in my tone made her glance up, though she didn't set down her phone. Annoyance flickered across her features, the expression of someone being interrupted during something important. "Can it wait? This is a good episode," she replied dismissively. "No, it can't," I said firmly. I walked to the television and turned it off, then moved to the armchair across from her, deliberately maintaining distance, positioning myself where I could see her face clearly when everything came crashing down. Valerie sighed dramatically and finally set her phone aside, crossing her arms with the exaggerated patience of someone humoring a child. "I know about the affair," I stated. The words landed like stones thrown into still water, creating ripples that spread across Valerie's face in waves. Surprise, followed by rapid calculation, then something that looked almost like relief. For a split second, her mask slipped completely, and I saw someone I didn't recognize. Someone cold, calculating, unafraid. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice measured, testing, probing to see how much I actually knew. This wasn't the response of an innocent woman wrongly accused. "This was strategy. Don't play dumb, Valerie. I know about Connor Lane," I replied evenly. The name hit like a physical blow. The blood drained from her face for just a moment before professional composure reasserted itself. She was good at this, probably had been lying to me far longer than I'd suspected. But she wasn't good enough. The mask cracked completely. Valerie's eyes narrowed. Her posture shifted from defensive to something approaching aggressive. She set her phone down with exaggerated care, leaned back against the couch cushions, and crossed her arms. The body language of someone who'd just decided to stop pretending. "Okay," she said, her voice carrying a new edge. "So you know, no denial, no tears, no shocked protestations of innocence or pleas for forgiveness. Just acknowledgement, casual as discussing the weather." In that moment, I realized I'd never really known my wife at all. "So you're not even going to deny it?" I asked, my voice remaining level, though my heart was pounding against my ribs like a caged animal. "Why would I?" she replied, standing up and beginning to pace the length of our living room, warming to what she clearly thought was a position of strength. "Ethan, let's be adults about this. You're a good man, reliable, stable, financially secure. But you're also predictable, boring. Connor makes me feel alive in ways you never could." She was actually lecturing me. Standing in the home I'd bought, wearing clothes I'd paid for, having just admitted to months of infidelity, and she was treating me like I was the problem. The audacity was breathtaking. "Here's how this is going to work," she continued, her confidence building with each word. "Connor and I are staying together. This isn't some fling, Ethan. We're in love. Real love. The kind that makes you forget everything else exists. I'll bring him here once a week. Wednesday nights when you're usually working late anyway. You'll deal with it." I stared at her, genuinely speechless. She wasn't just admitting to adultery, she was proposing to institutionalize it. To turn our marriage into some twisted arrangement where I paid for the privilege of being humiliated in my own home. "Or what?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Valerie's smile was pure predator, the satisfied grin of someone who thought they were holding all the cards. "Or I divorce you and take half of everything. The house, your savings, your retirement accounts, all of it. Community property, baby. 50-50 split. I'll ruin you financially while Connor and I build something real," she declared smugly. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself a glass of wine like she was celebrating. Like she'd already won. "And honestly, Ethan, this is your fault. You're boring, predictable. You come home, eat dinner, watch TV, go to bed. Connor takes risks. He's exciting. He makes me feel like a woman, not some housewife appliance you wheel out for company parties," she continued, sipping her wine. She smirked at me over the rim. "Connor owns half the commercial real estate downtown. He's worth 3 times what you make. When we're together, I feel like I'm living, not just existing. So either you accept your place in this new arrangement, or you lose everything and start over in some studio apartment while Connor and I enjoy the life you built." The room fell silent except for the muted sound of traffic outside and the hum of our refrigerator. Valerie stood there sipping wine, radiating satisfaction, completely convinced she'd just delivered a masterstroke. She had no idea she'd just handed me everything I needed to destroy her completely. I reached into my bag and pulled out the evidence folder, dropping it on the coffee table with a sound that echoed through the room like a gunshot. "Open it!" I commanded. Valerie frowned, her confidence wavering for the first time. "What is this?" "Open it," I repeated firmly. She set down her wine glass and moved toward the table, her movement suddenly uncertain. The folder seemed to loom larger as she approached it, like it contained something dangerous, which, from her perspective, it absolutely did. Her hands were shaking slightly as she opened the folder. Photos spilled across the coffee table like accusations. Her and Connor kissing outside restaurants, holding hands in parking lots, entering hotels together. Then came the video stills, explicit and time-stamped, leaving no room for interpretation or denial. I watched the color drain from her face like water from a broken pipe. Her mouth fell open, her breathing became shallow and rapid. The confident woman who'd been lecturing me about accepting my place was transforming into someone desperate and afraid. "I hired a private investigator 3 weeks ago," I said, my voice calm as a surgeon's explaining a procedure. "I have photos, videos, surveillance reports, everything." Valerie's hands were trembling now as she picked up photo after photo, each one a nail in the coffin of her arrogance. "Ethan." "Wait!" she began desperately. "Remember the prenup your father insisted on?" I leaned forward, enjoying her mounting panic for the first time in months. "The one with the nice little clause about adultery voiding all marital asset claims? You know, the one you signed so confidently because you'd never cheat?" The arrogance crumbled like a house of cards in a hurricane. Tears filled her eyes. Real terror now. Not performance, not manipulation. "Ethan, please, it was a mistake. I'll end it right now. Give me another chance. I love you," she pleaded frantically. The desperation was almost pathetic. The woman who'd been demanding I accept her lover in our home was now begging for mercy she'd never have shown me. "A mistake?" I laughed, cold and bitter. "You just finished telling me you were going to bring Connor into my house once a week. That I had to accept it, or you'd ruin me financially. That this was all my fault for being boring. That was your final offer, remember?" "I didn't mean it. I was upset. I wasn't thinking clearly," she stammered. "Oh, but wait. There's more." I pulled out my phone, queued up the recording I'd been making since I walked through the door. "I want you to hear something." Her own voice filled the room clear as crystal. "I'll bring him here once a week, Wednesday nights, when you're usually working late anyway. You'll deal with it, or I divorce you and take half of everything. This is your fault. You're boring, predictable. Connor makes me feel like a woman, not some housewife appliance." Valerie's face crumbled completely. "You recorded me?" she asked, her voice breaking on the words. "Every single word," I confirmed, standing up and walking over to where she was standing, looking down at the woman who'd spent months destroying our marriage. "You want to know what's predictable, Valerie? A cheating wife who thinks she's smarter than everyone else, right up until the moment she realizes she's been caught." I walked to the front door and opened it wide, the cool evening air rushing into our living room. "Get out! Ethan, please!" she sobbed, mascara running down her cheeks. The confident adulteress replaced by a desperate woman who'd just realized the magnitude of her mistake. "I'm sorry. I love you. I'll do anything. I'll never see him again. We can go to counseling. Please don't do this." "Where am I supposed to go?" she wailed, her voice echoing through the neighborhood. "Not my problem," I replied coldly. I grabbed her purse from the side table and handed it to her. "You should have thought about that before you decided to f*** another man in hotel rooms while planning to humiliate me in my own home." I guided her toward the door. Not roughly, but firmly. "The way you'd escort a trespasser off your property. Ethan, please! I have nowhere to go." "What about my things?" she cried. "Your lawyer can arrange to collect them." "After the divorce is final," I answered. "My lawyer?" "I don't have a lawyer!" "I can't afford," she protested. "Should have thought of that before you violated the prenup that's going to leave you with nothing." I stepped back, giving her space to walk through the doorway. "Goodbye, Valerie." She stood on the porch, sobbing, begging, reaching for me through the open door. "Please, I'm sorry." "I love you. Don't do this to me." I closed the door and turned the deadbolt. The click echoed through the house with beautiful finality. Valerie pounded on the door, her sobs and pleas muffled by the solid wood, but I was already walking away. I pulled out my phone and sent 2 texts. The first to Margaret. "Confrontation complete. Proceed with filing." The second to Robert, Valerie's father. "Need to speak with you. Can you call me tonight?" Then I poured myself another whiskey and listened to my wife's world fall apart on the other side of the door. She'd thought she was untouchable. She'd thought she could destroy me and walk away with half of everything I'd worked for. Instead, she'd just destroyed herself. But I wasn't done. "Not even close," Robert answered on the first ring, his voice heavy with exhaustion. "Ethan!" Valerie called crying, saying you'd thrown her out. What happened? He asked. I could have eased into it, but Robert deserved the truth. Robert, Valerie's been having an affair. I have proof. I'm filing for divorce and enforcing the prenup, I explained. Silence stretched across the phone line. I could picture him in his study, trying to process that his daughter had become exactly what the prenup was designed to protect against. Send me the proof, he said finally, voice controlled but strained. I forwarded everything, photos, videos, surveillance reports, the audio recording. Robert needed to know exactly who his daughter had become. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Robert's voice carried profound disappointment and shame. I'm ashamed of her, Ethan. Deeply ashamed. You have every right to divorce her and enforce that prenup. She knew the consequences when she signed it, he said heavily. He paused, struggling with words no father should say. She gets nothing from us either. Linda and I discussed it. If she comes here looking for money or shelter, we'll turn her away. She made her choices. Thank you. I'm sorry it came to this, I replied. This is entirely her doing. That prenup was designed to protect both of you from exactly this situation, he responded. Within an hour, Valerie was at her parents' house. Linda called to tell me, voice shaking with anger and disappointment. She's on our porch crying, claiming you've ruined her life. But we heard the recording, Ethan. We know what she really said, Linda informed me. Through the phone, I could hear Valerie pleading with her parents to help her, to take her side against the husband who'd held her accountable. Robert's explaining that we won't help her, that we can't support what she's done. She's not welcome here anymore, Linda continued. The conversation ended badly for Valerie. Her parents, who'd raised her to believe in integrity, couldn't reconcile the woman on their doorstep with the values they'd tried to instill. But I wasn't finished. Valerie wasn't the only one who needed consequences. The next morning, I drove to Westfield Estates, the gated community where Connor Lane lived. His address led me to a beautiful home with pristine landscaping and children's toys scattered across the lawn. A woman answered. Early 30s. Kind eyes holding a toddler while another child played behind her. This was Diane Lane, innocent of her husband's betrayals. Can I help you? She asked, genuinely welcoming. Are you Connor Lane's wife? I kept my voice gentle. This woman was a victim too. Yes. Who are you? She replied curiously. My name is Ethan Rhodes. I'm married to Valerie Rhodes. I need to show you something about your husband, I explained. I handed her copies of the investigator's report. Photos, videos, time-stamped documentation. Diane's face changed as she opened it, confusion giving way to devastating heartbreak. She set the toddler down, hands trembling as she flipped through evidence. Photos of Connor holding hands with Valerie, kissing her, entering hotels together. Oh my God, she whispered. Oh my God. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, I said quietly. But you deserve to know the truth. You deserve better than this. Diane looked up, tears streaming, but voice steady. Thank you. Thank you for telling me. I had suspicions, but he always had explanations. I convinced myself I was being paranoid. You weren't paranoid. You were married to a liar, I assured her. As I walked back to my car, I heard the door close, then muffled shouting from inside. Connor's reckoning had begun. Margaret called that afternoon. Papers are filed and she's been served. Process server found her at a cheap motel on the east side. Her parents refused to let her stay, she reported. How did she react? I asked. Hysteria. Crying, screaming, claiming this was a mistake. She kept asking about the prenup, whether there was any way around it, Margaret replied. Margaret paused. I also got a call from Connor Lane's attorney. His wife filed for divorce this morning, going for everything. Full custody, the house, substantial support. She's using your evidence for fault-based divorce. The irony was perfect. Connor, who'd helped destroy my marriage, was losing his own family because of the same evidence destroying Valerie. What about Valerie's representation? I inquired. She can't afford anyone decent. The prenup is ironclad, Ethan. Even if she finds a lawyer, there's no defense against this evidence. She's going to lose everything, Margaret confirmed. I'd torn down everything Valerie thought she could rely on. Marriage, security, family support, even her lover's stability. All that remained was watching the ashes settle. 60 days later, I stood in Margaret Sinclair's office holding the final divorce decree. The judge's ruling was unambiguous. Adultery voids all marital asset claims. Valerie received nothing. The prenup held perfectly, clean as a whistle, Margaret said. She didn't even contest it. Her attorney took one look at the evidence and advised her to sign rather than rack up fees she couldn't pay. Margaret's final bill was substantial but worth every penny. Justice had a price, and I'd been happy to pay it. Diane Lane's divorce proceeded with ruthless efficiency. Her attorney, armed with my evidence, had taken Connor apart in court. Full custody, the house, substantial support that would keep him financially crippled for years. His real estate empire crumbled as business partners distanced themselves from the scandal. Diane called once to thank me. "You saved us from wasting more years with him. My kids deserve better," she said gratefully. We never spoke again, but I was satisfied knowing I'd helped another innocent person escape. Valerie left town after the divorce, unable to find work where her reputation preceded her. Friends abandoned her, family disowned her. She sent one email about regret and second chances. I deleted it unread, then blocked her address. I threw myself into work, reconnecting with friends I'd neglected. The promotion I'd been passed over for came through with a substantial raise. I started therapy to process the betrayal, renovated the house extensively, erasing every trace of the woman who'd shared it without appreciating it. 6 months later, standing in my remodeled kitchen on a Sunday morning, drinking coffee I'd ground myself while jazz played softly, I realized something profound. I was genuinely happy. Not recovering or coping, actually happy. Free. The betrayal that had nearly destroyed me had instead destroyed the lie I'd been living. Valerie hadn't broken me. She'd revealed my strength, my resilience, my capacity to survive the worst thing I'd thought could happen. She'd shown me exactly who she was when she'd stood in this kitchen planning her lover's weekly visits. Instead of breaking me, she'd set me free to build something real, something worthy of the man I'd proven myself to be. She thought she'd broken me. Instead, she'd set me free.